In a quiet village surrounded by golden fields, there lived a man named Liam. Everyone in the village knew him not because he was famous or skilled, but because he was always lazy. While others woke up early to work in their farms or shops, Liam stayed in bed long after the sun had risen. He often said, "There's always tomorrow," whenever someone asked him to do something. He had many dreams once: to start a small business, to build a better home, to make his parents proud. But every dream stayed trapped inside his mind because he never took the first step. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into years. Life around him moved forward, but Liam stood still. Sometimes he watched others succeed and thought, "Why is life so unfair?" But deep down, he knew the answer: he just never tried. As time passed, Liam's laziness began to shape his destiny. The small savings he once had slowly disappeared. His clothes grew old, his house turned dull, and the spark in his eyes started to fade. People who once called him a friend began to avoid him. When neighbors passed by, they whispered, "Poor Liam, such a waste of potential." His parents tried to help, but even they grew tired of his empty promises. "I'll start tomorrow," he always said. Yet tomorrow never came. Work opportunities came and went. But Liam always found an excuse: too tired, too late, too busy doing nothing. One cold evening, he sat outside his small house staring at the quiet sky. The world seemed so peaceful, yet his heart was heavy. He asked himself, "Why does nothing ever change for me?" The answer hurt because he had never changed. As the wind brushed against his face, a strange thought entered his mind. Maybe life wasn't unfair. Maybe it was waiting for him to wake up. And that night, as he drifted to sleep, he didn't know that tomorrow would bring something unexpected, something that would change his path forever. The next morning, Liam walked aimlessly through the village streets. He didn't know where he was going, only that he wanted to escape the feeling of uselessness that had been growing inside him. As he passed the old park near the river, he noticed an elderly man sitting quietly under a large banyan tree. The man was carving a small wooden bird, his hands slow but steady. Curious, Liam stopped and watched. The old man looked up, smiled gently, and said, "You look lost, son. What are you searching for?" Liam hesitated before replying, "I don't really know. Maybe my life. I feel stuck. Nothing ever works for me." The old man nodded as if he already understood. He pointed to the half-carved bird and said, "Do you know how this bird began?" Liam shook his head. "It began as a rough piece of wood," the man said softly. "It looked useless, just like most people think their lives are. But when I kept carving it a little every day, the bird slowly appeared." Liam stared at the carving, realizing the meaning behind the words. The man continued, "Laziness doesn't make life easy, my boy. It only steals your chance to live." For a moment, silence filled the air. Something inside Liam shifted, a quiet spark of realization. That night, as he lay in bed, those words echoed in his mind. "It only steals your chance to live." The next morning, for the first time in years, Liam woke up before sunrise. The world outside was still quiet. Only the sound of birds and the soft breeze filled the air. For a moment, he almost went back to bed. But then he remembered the old man's words. "It only steals your chance to live." He sat up, rubbed his eyes, and whispered to himself, "Not today." He decided to start small, cleaning the messy front yard he had ignored for months. It wasn't easy. His body felt heavy, his mind kept saying, "Why bother?" But with each small movement, something inside him felt lighter. By noon, the yard was clean, and Liam felt a quiet sense of pride he hadn't felt in years. It wasn't a big achievement, but it was his first honest effort. That evening, he walked past the same old banyan tree. The old man wasn't there, but his words stayed alive in Liam's heart. He realized that change didn't need to be loud or fast. It just needed to begin. Every great fire, he thought, starts with a single spark. The days that followed were not easy for Liam. Every morning, he fought with his old habits: the urge to sleep late, the desire to avoid work, the voice inside whispering, "You'll fail again." But this time, he didn't give in. He had decided to change, no matter how small the step. He started helping his neighbor, a carpenter, in his workshop. At first, he only swept the floor and carried wood. But even that simple work gave him a strange peace. Watching the carpenter's hands shape raw wood into something beautiful reminded him of the old man's carving. Slowly, he began to learn. One day his neighbor said, "Liam, carve this small block for me." Liam hesitated but tried. His hands trembled. The cut was rough, but he didn't stop. The more he practiced, the smoother his hands became. And with every day, he discovered small lessons about life. Lesson 1. Start small, stay steady. Progress doesn't appear overnight, but each effort builds on the last. Lesson 2. Discipline over desire. Motivation fades, but routine keeps you moving. He learned to work even on days he didn't feel like it. Lesson 3. Effort brings clarity. The more he worked, the more confident he became. Laziness had once filled his mind with fog. Effort cleared it. Lesson 4. Action builds self-respect. Every finished task made him stand a little taller. Weeks passed. The workshop that once felt like a burden became his favorite place. His hands grew rough, but his heart grew light. For the first time, he didn't feel useless, he felt alive. One evening, he found an old rusty hammer lying in the corner. Instead of throwing it away, he polished it until it shone like new. As he held it up to the light, a smile crossed his face. That hammer, he thought, was just like him, forgotten, rusted but still strong inside. All it needed was a little care and effort. Months passed, and Liam was no longer the man everyone once called lazy. He now worked with skill and patience, crafting tables, chairs, and small wooden toys for children. His hands carried the marks of hard work, but his eyes carried peace. People in the village began to notice the change. The same neighbors who once shook their heads at him now greeted him with respect. Children often ran to his workshop, watching him carve with quiet admiration. His parents, who had lost hope, now smiled with pride every time they saw him at work. One afternoon, as Liam finished a wooden bird, the same design the old man once carved, he looked at it and felt tears in his eyes. The bird symbolized freedom, effort, and rebirth. He realized then that destiny had never been against him. It had always been waiting for him to move. With a calm heart, he whispered, "Destiny didn't change for me. I changed myself." And destiny followed. That evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Liam closed his shop and walked home with quiet joy. He had finally learned the truth. Hard work doesn't just change your life, it changes you. Liam's story is a gentle reminder that no one is born lazy. We simply forget the strength that already lives inside us. Change doesn't come from waiting. It begins the moment we decide to act, even in the smallest way. If you ever feel stuck, lost, or tired of trying, remember Liam. He didn't become successful overnight. He began with one small step, cleaning his yard, helping a neighbor, showing up each day. Those little actions slowly rebuilt his life and reshaped his destiny. Laziness may promise comfort, but it silently steals your dreams. Effort, on the other hand, may feel heavy at first, yet it carries you toward freedom, purpose, and peace. The man who once slept through his days now wakes before the sun, living the life he once only imagined, because one day he chose to begin and never stopped.